The morning sun rose over New Eden like any other day. The sky painted itself in soft colors of pink and gold as the planet slowly woke up. Children ran through the streets, their happy voices mixing with the sounds of a busy city starting its day. Nobody knew this would be the last normal day they would ever see. Jake Morrison stood on his back porch, watching his 10-year-old daughter Emma play in the garden. She was chasing butterflies between the flower beds, her long brown hair flying behind her as she ran. Her laugh was like music to his ears. Jake smiled and took a sip of his coffee. Life was good. "Dad, look at this one," Emma called out, pointing at a bright blue butterfly that had landed on a red flower. "It's so pretty." Jake walked over to his daughter and knelt down beside her. "That's a Zephyrian butterfly," he told her. "They came here from the Crystal Peoples planet. Pretty amazing how different species can live together, right?" Emma nodded, her eyes wide with wonder. "I want to study aliens when I grow up, just like Dr. Park." Jake ruffled her hair. "I'm sure you'll make a great scientist, sweetheart." Across the city, Dr. Lisa Park was already at work in her research lab. She had been up since 4 in the morning, excited about her latest discovery. Her team had finally cracked the code for universal translation technology. Soon, humans would be able to talk to any alien species without confusion or mistakes. "This is going to change everything," she whispered to herself as she looked at the data on her computer screen. The breakthrough would make trade easier, prevent wars caused by misunderstandings, and bring all the galaxy's species closer together. Her assistant, Kevin, walked into the lab carrying 2 cups of coffee. He was only 15 but already showed great promise as a future scientist. "Any luck with the translation matrix?" he asked, handing her a cup. "More than luck," Lisa said with a big smile. "We did it, Kevin. We actually did it." Kevin's face lit up. "Really? We can talk to anyone now?" "Anyone," Lisa confirmed. "The Zephyrians, the Nereids, the Vrector, even species we haven't met yet. This technology will work with any form of communication." High above the planet, Commander Ryan Torres sat in his command chair aboard the patrol ship UES Defender. His weekly reports showed the same peaceful news from all 47 human colonies. Crime rates were down, trade was up, and diplomatic. Relations with alien species had never been better. "Sir, we're getting the morning reports from the outer colonies," his communications officer, Amy Collins, announced. Amy was young but skilled, having transferred from her teaching job on Harvest Moon to serve aboard the Defender. "Any problems?" Ryan asked, though he already knew the answer. "None, sir. Everything is quiet." The Zephyrian trade convoy arrived at Colony 7 right on schedule. The Nereid Cultural Exchange Program is starting next week on Colony 12. And the Vrector are sending their best engineers to help build the new space station at Colony 23. Ryan nodded with satisfaction. 5 years ago, the Galactic Peace Accords had been signed in this very star system. Since then, wars had become a thing of the past. Different species worked together, shared knowledge, and helped each other solve problems. It was everything humanity had hoped for when they first reached for the stars. "Keep monitoring," Ryan told Amy. "Though, I doubt we'll see anything more exciting than a merchant ship running late." On the planet below, the Festival of Unity was beginning. This celebration happened once a year on all human colonies at the same time. It was a day when people remembered how far they had come and looked forward to an even better future. Children performed plays about friendship between species. Adults shared food and stories. Everyone came together as one big family. Jake Morrison put on his dress uniform for the festival. As a Marine captain, he was expected to give a speech about peace, cooperation. He looked at himself in the mirror and straightened his medals. 20 years ago, these medals were earned in small conflicts with pirates and criminals. Now they were symbols of a more peaceful time. "You look very handsome, Daddy," Emma said from the doorway. She was wearing her best dress, a blue one with small alien symbols embroidered on it. "And you look beautiful, Princess," Jake replied, picking her up and spinning her around. "Ready for the festival?" "Yes. I can't wait to see the Zephyrian crystal dancers." At the same time, Dr. Park was preparing her own presentation for the festival. She would announce her translation breakthrough to the world. It would be the perfect gift for Unity Day. As she gathered her research notes, she felt proud of what humanity had accomplished. They had gone from a species that fought wars over small differences to one that celebrated those differences with alien friends. The festival grounds filled with people as the day went on. Human families mixed with visiting aliens. Zephyrian traders showed off their beautiful crystal artwork. Nereid diplomats shared stories of their underwater cities. Vector engineers demonstrated their amazing building techniques. Children ran everywhere, playing games that mixed human and alien traditions. They painted their faces with the colorful patterns that Zephyrians used for celebrations. They learned songs in the water language of the Nereids. They built tiny structures using Vector engineering methods. Emma Morrison joined a group of children learning to dance like the Crystal People. Her movements were clumsy compared to the graceful Zephyrians, but she tried her best. The alien teachers praised her effort and helped her improve. "You're doing great," one of the Zephyrian dancers told her in perfectly translated English. Dance is about joy, not perfection. As the day continued, nobody noticed the small ships that appeared at the edge of the star system. They were too far away for normal sensors to detect, and they used technology that was completely unknown to any of the galaxy's peaceful species. The ships were dark and strange, looking more like living creatures than normal spacecraft. They moved in ways that seemed impossible, bending space around them as they approached the planet. Inside these ships, creatures that were part machine and part living, Tissue watched the festival through advanced viewing systems. The creatures had been studying humanity for months. They had seen the peace treaties, the cultural exchanges, the cooperation between species. To them, all of this looked like weakness. They could not understand why humans would care so much about other species, especially the small ones that could not fight back. "The target is confirmed," one of the creatures spoke in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. "The young ones are gathered in large numbers. Their emotional connections to the breeding pairs are strong. This will cause maximum damage to their psychological state." "Proceed with the harvest," another creature replied. "Show them what happens when species become soft." On the planet below, the festival continued. Jake Morrison took the stage to give his speech about peace and unity. Dr. Park prepared to announce her great discovery. Children laughed and played, not knowing that their happy voices were being recorded by creatures that saw their joy as something to be destroyed. The sun began to set over New Eden, painting the sky in beautiful colors once again. Families gathered together for the evening meal, sharing stories about the day's events. Emma Morrison sat on her father's lap, tired but happy from all the dancing and playing. "Did you have fun today, sweetheart?" Jake asked his daughter. "The best day ever," Emma replied, yawning. "I love the festival." "Me too," Jake said, hugging her close. "Me too." High above them, the dark ships moved closer to the planet. The creatures inside them had finished their preparations. Soon, they would teach humanity a lesson about the cost of caring too much for the weak, and defenseless. The peaceful day was about to end in a way that would change everything forever. The attack came without warning just as the evening meal was ending. Emma Morrison had fallen asleep in her father's arms when the first explosions shook the ground. Jake woke up instantly, his military training taking over. Something was very wrong. "Emma, wake up, honey," he said gently, but his voice carried an edge of fear. The little girl opened her eyes and looked around, confused by the loud noises outside. "What's happening, Daddy?" she asked, her voice small and scared. Before Jake could answer, his emergency communicator started beeping. Messages flooded in from all over the planet. Ships were attacking, but they were not like any ships anyone had seen before. They looked alive, moving like giant insects or sea creatures through the sky. "All military personnel report immediately," the voice on the communicator said. "We are under attack by unknown forces. This is not a drill." Jake's blood ran cold. He looked at his daughter and tried to stay calm. Emma, we need to go to the safe room, okay? Just like we practiced. But before they could move, the wall of their house exploded inward. A massive creature pushed through the opening. It was part machine and part living tissue, with metal parts growing out of flesh like a horrible nightmare. Its eyes glowed red. As it scanned the room, the creature ignored Jake completely. Its strange eyes focused only on Emma. It moved toward her with mechanical precision, making sounds like grinding gears mixed with animal growls. "Stay away from her!" Jake shouted, putting himself between the creature and his daughter. He grabbed his service weapon and fired at the beast. The bullets hit it but barely seemed to slow it down. The creature pushed Jake aside like he was nothing. Its metal claws reached for Emma, who screamed in terror. Jake watched in horror as more creatures poured through the broken wall. They all ignored him and focused only on his daughter. "Please," Jake begged, "take me instead, leave her alone." But the creatures did not listen. They could not understand his words or chose not to care. One of them grabbed Emma in its metal arms. She reached out for her father, tears streaming down her face. "Daddy, help me!" she cried as the creature carried her toward the hole in the wall. Jake tried to follow, but more creatures blocked his path. He fought them with everything he had, but there were too many. He could only watch as they took his daughter into the night sky, her screams fading into the distance. All across New Eden, the same scene played out in thousands of homes. The creatures, who would later be called Devourers, had one clear mission. They took only children. Anyone under 16 years old was grabbed and carried away. Adults were left completely alone, unharmed but destroyed inside. At Dr. Park's research facility, she was working late when the attack began. She heard screaming from the student dormitory next door. Her assistant Kevin was in there. Along with dozens of other young researchers, Lisa ran toward the screaming, but she was too late. The Devourers had already broken into the building. She watched through a window as they carried Kevin and the other students away. The boy she had taught and cared for like a son was gone. "Kevin!" she screamed, pounding on the window. But the creatures did not even look at her. To them, she was invisible. Only the young ones mattered. The attack was happening everywhere at once. Amy Collins, the communications officer on the Defender, received desperate calls from 17 different planets. The same creatures were attacking all of them at exactly the same time. "Sir, we're getting reports from colonies across the sector," Amy told Commander Torres, her voice shaking. "They're taking children, sir, only children." Ryan Torres stared at the communications screen in disbelief. The reports were all the same. Strange creatures attacking simultaneously across human space. They ignored adults, military bases, and important buildings. They only wanted the children. "How many?" he asked, though he was afraid of the answer. "Preliminary reports suggest over 2 million children taken, sir. The number is still growing." Ryan felt sick. 2 million children, gone, just like that. The peaceful galaxy they had built was crumbling in a single night. On Harvest Moon, teacher Amy Collins had been leading a group of students on a night astronomy lesson when the creatures attacked. She tried to protect her students, pushing them behind her and facing the monsters with only her bare hands. "You want them, you go through me," she shouted at the creatures, but they simply walked around her. They did not hurt her, but they took every single one of her students. 23 children between the ages of 6 and 15, all grabbed and carried away into the dark sky. Amy fell to her knees, screaming at the stars. Her students were gone and she could not save them. The creatures had taken them as easily as picking flowers from a garden. The attack lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the creatures broadcast a message to all human colonies. The voice was cold and mechanical, speaking in perfect English through the translation systems. "People of Earth and your colonies," the voice said. "We are the Devourers. We have taken your young ones. They will serve our purpose. Their growing minds will become part of our collective. You have been judged weak for your attachment to these small ones. Your peace has made you soft. We will show you the cost of such weakness." The message continued with details that made everyone who heard it feel sick. The children were not dead, but they were being changed. Their minds were being connected to alien technology. They would become part of the Devourer Collective, their humanity slowly eaten away. "Do not attempt to follow us," the voice warned. "Your young ones are the price for your softness. Accept this lesson and perhaps we will leave your other worlds alone." Jake Morrison stood in the ruins of his home, listening to the message. His daughter was alive but being turned into something else. The thought made him want to scream until his throat was raw. Dr. Park sat in her destroyed laboratory, staring at the broken equipment. Kevin was gone, along with all the other young researchers. Her great discovery about universal translation seemed pointless now. Commander Torres received reports from his patrol ships. The creatures had vanished completely. They had advanced technology that let them disappear into space without leaving any trace. The children were gone, and nobody knew where to find them. Across human space, parents wept for their missing children. The peaceful festival of unity had become a day of horror. The galaxy that had seemed so safe and friendly had shown its true face, but something else was happening too. In the silence after the attack, a new feeling began to grow in the hearts of humanity. It was not just grief or fear. It was something darker and more dangerous. The Devourers had made a mistake. They thought taking the children would break human spirit and prove their weakness. Instead, they had awakened something that had been sleeping in the human soul for generations. The age of peace was over. The age of fury was about to begin. Jake Morrison looked at the stars where his daughter had been taken. His grief was turning into something else. Something that would make the Devourers regret ever hearing the name of humanity. "You want to see what we're really like?" he whispered to the night sky. "You're going to get your wish." The change began in the first hours after the attack. Jake Morrison sat in his destroyed home, staring at the broken wall where his daughter had been taken. He was not crying anymore. The tears had dried up, replaced by something cold and hard. In his chest, he stood up slowly and walked to his military equipment locker. Inside were weapons and gear he had not touched in years. The tools of war that had been put away when peace came to the galaxy. Jake began to put on his combat armor, piece by piece. "They wanted to see what humans are really like," he said to himself, checking his rifle. "They will get their answer." Across the planet, the same scene was happening in thousands of homes. Parents who had been teachers, doctors, and shopkeepers were remembering their old military training. They were finding weapons they had stored away. They were making phone calls to old friends who knew how to fight. The peaceful world of New Eden was becoming something else. Something dangerous. Dr. Lisa Park stood in her laboratory, looking at the equipment she had used to create translation technology. The machines that had been meant to bring peace between species were now being taken apart. She was turning them into something very different. "Kevin," she whispered, thinking of her young assistant. "I will find you, and I will make them pay for taking you." Lisa began to work with a focus she had never felt before. Her hands moved quickly over the equipment, changing peaceful research tools into weapons. The same brilliant mind that had solved the translation problem was now solving a different kind of problem. How to hurt the creatures that had hurt her family. At the government building, Chancellor Karen Walsh called an emergency meeting. The leaders of all 47 human colonies appeared on screens around the room. Their faces showed the same expression. Grief had turned into something much more dangerous. "They took our children," Chancellor Walsh said, her voice quiet but filled with iron. "They thought this would make us weak. They thought we would give up and accept their lesson about peace." She paused and looked at each leader on the screens. "They were wrong. They have awakened something in us that we hoped was buried forever. They wanted to see humanity's true nature. They shall have it." The response was immediate. Every colony leader began to speak at once, all saying the same thing. They would find the children. They would make the Devourers pay. They would show the galaxy what humans were really capable of when their families were threatened. "We are declaring total war," Chancellor Walsh announced. "Not just against the Devourers, but against anyone who stands with them. Every human colony will convert to war production. Every citizen will become a soldier. Every resource will be used to build the largest military force the galaxy has ever seen. A transformation began that same day. Factories that made furniture started making weapons. Schools became military training centers. Hospitals prepared for war casualties. The entire human civilization changed its purpose in less than 24 hours. Jake Morrison reported to the military base on New Eden. He was not alone. Thousands of parents came with him, all asking for the same thing. They wanted to volunteer for the most dangerous missions. They wanted to be the first to fight the creatures that had taken their children. "I want to be enhanced," Jake told the recruiting officer. "Whatever experimental programs you have, I volunteer." The officer looked at him with understanding. "The enhancement program is dangerous. Many people die during the process, are you sure?" Jake thought of Emma's face as the creatures carried her away. "I'm sure. Make me stronger. Make me faster. Make me whatever I need to be to get my daughter back." The same conversation happened at military bases across human space. Parents volunteered for genetic modification programs that had been considered too risky before. They accepted cybernetic implants that would make them more like machines than human. They agreed to psychological conditioning that would turn them into perfect soldiers. The scientists who had created these programs were shocked by the demand. "We were developing these technologies for space exploration," one researcher explained. "They were meant to help humans survive in dangerous environments, not for war." "Then adapt them for war," Jake replied. "Make us into weapons." Commander Ryan Torres found himself promoted to admiral overnight. The human military was expanding so fast that they needed experienced officers at every level. He was given command of a fleet that did not exist yet, with ships that were still being designed. "How many ships do you need?" The shipyard supervisor asked him. "All of them," Ryan replied. "Build everything we can. Want a fleet so large that it blocks out the sun." The shipyards that had been building peaceful cargo vessels and exploration ships were quickly converted. The new designs were nothing like the old ones. These ships were built for one purpose only: to destroy the Devourers and anyone who helped them. Dr. Park was recruited to lead the weapons development program. Her research into alien communication technology gave her insights into how the Devourers might think and operate. She began to design weapons specifically to counter their biomechanical nature. "They are part machine and part living tissue," she explained to her new team. "We need weapons that can damage both aspects of their existence." The weapons she created were unlike anything humans had built before. They combined energy weapons with biological agents. They could disrupt mechanical systems and poison living tissue at the same time. They were designed to cause maximum pain and destruction to the creatures that had taken the children. The alien allies of humanity watched this transformation with growing concern. The Zephyrians, who had been humanity's friends for decades, sent a diplomatic message expressing their worry. "We understand your grief," the Zephyrian ambassador said. "But this path you are choosing frightens us. You are becoming something different, something we do not recognize." Chancellor Walsh replied to the alien concerns during a public broadcast. "We are still human. We still value peace and friendship. But we have learned that peace must be protected by strength. Our children were taken because our enemies saw us as weak. We will never allow that mistake to be made again." The broadcast was watched by species across the galaxy. They saw the human leader standing in front of massive war machines being built in the background. They heard the cold determination in her voice. They began to understand that the peaceful humans they had known were gone. The Vrektor, who were warrior species, themselves sent a message of support. "We have seen your true nature now," their leader said. "We offer our alliance in this war." The Devourers chose the wrong species to anger. Other species began to choose sides. Some offered help to humanity. Others tried to stay neutral. A few, terrified by the display of human anger, began to quietly support the Devourers, hoping to avoid human revenge, but neutrality was becoming impossible. The human war machine was growing so fast that it affected the entire galaxy. Trade routes were disrupted as human ships converted to military use. Resources were diverted to weapons production. The peaceful balance of the galaxy was being torn apart. Jake Morrison completed his enhancement program after 3 months of painful procedures. When he looked in the mirror, he barely recognized himself. His muscles were larger, his reflexes faster, his strength increased tenfold. Computer implants in his brain helped him process information at superhuman speeds. "How do you feel?" the doctor asked him. Jake flexed his new muscles and tested his enhanced senses. "Like I can finally do what needs to be done," he replied. He was not alone. Thousands of enhanced humans were graduating from similar programs. They were stronger, faster, and more deadly than any soldiers the galaxy had ever seen. They were also driven by a fury that made them unstoppable. The human fleet was growing every day. Ships rolled out of construction yards in numbers that amazed even the humans themselves. They were not just building more ships, they were building better ships. Each new design was more powerful than the last. Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of his new flagship, watching the fleet assemble. Thousands of ships stretched out before him, with thousands more being built. It was the largest military force in galactic history. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from 3 different star systems. They're afraid we might attack them by mistake." Ryan understood their fear. The human fleet was so large and powerful that it could destroy entire civilizations by accident. "Tell them we have no interest in their systems. We have only one target." The hunt for the Devourers was about to begin. And when it did, the galaxy would learn what happened when someone made the mistake of threatening human children. 2 years had passed since the children were taken. The human war machine was finally ready to hunt. Admiral Ryan Torres stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Vengeance, looking out at the largest fleet ever assembled. 5,000 ships, stretched out in perfect formation, each one designed for maximum destruction. The peaceful humans who had once sought harmony with alien species were gone. In their place stood something harder, colder, and infinitely more dangerous. Every person in the fleet had lost someone on that terrible day. Every ship carried weapons that could crack planets. Every soldier had only one goal: find the children. Destroy the Devourers. Show the galaxy what happened when you threatened human families. Jake Morrison stood in the Enhanced Marines briefing room. His body had been changed so much that old friends barely recognized him. His muscles were like steel cables, his reflexes faster than any normal human could imagine. Computer implants in his brain let him process tactical information instantly. Around him sat 200 other Enhanced Marines. They had all volunteered for the same experimental programs. They had all survived the painful procedures that killed half the volunteers. They were no longer quite human, but they were exactly what humanity needed. "Our target is a Devourer scouting base in the Kepler system," Jake told his squad. "Intelligence says they have about 50 of the creatures there. Remember the rules? No prisoners? Complete destruction." The Marines nodded silently. The old rules of war no longer applied. The Geneva Conventions had been suspended. The ethical guidelines that had governed human conflict for centuries were forgotten. The Devourers had changed the rules when they took the children that Dr. Lisa Park worked in her weapons laboratory aboard the science ship UES Discovery. The room was filled with devices that would have horrified her peaceful past self. Weapons that could dissolve biomechanical tissue. Viruses designed to attack alien computer systems. Bombs that could sterilize entire planets. "The latest batch of dissolution bombs is ready," her assistant reported. "They're specifically designed to target Devourer biomechanical integration." Lisa nodded, thinking of Kevin. Her young assistant had been missing for 2 years now. Intelligence reports suggested the children were still alive but being slowly changed into something else. The thought made her work harder on weapons that could cause maximum pain to their captors. "Make sure every ship gets a full load," she said. I want the Devourers to understand exactly what they've unleashed. The first attack came without warning, just as the Devourers had done to the children. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace around the scouting base and immediately opened fire. There was no attempt at communication, no offer to surrender. The humans had learned from their enemy. The Devourer base was destroyed in less than 10 minutes. The creatures inside had no time to send distress signals or escape. The Enhanced Marines swept through the wreckage, making sure nothing survived. When they were done, there was nothing left but space dust and twisted metal. Jake Morrison found evidence in the destroyed base that made his blood boil. Computer files showing how the Devourers studied human emotional responses. Videos of children being forced into alien machines. Research notes about using young minds as biological computers. "They're treating our kids like spare parts," he reported to Admiral Torres. "The children are being integrated into their technology while still alive." Ryan Torres received the report with cold fury. The Devourers were not just holding the children prisoner. They were slowly destroying everything that made them human. The knowledge made every person in the fleet even more determined to continue the hunt. "Find their next base," he ordered. "We're going to keep hitting them until they have nowhere left to hide." The human fleet moved like a swarm of angry insects through space. They followed the faintest traces of Devourer technology, tracking their prey with patience and skill. Every time they found a base or ship, the result was the same: complete destruction. Other alien species began to take notice of the human campaign. The Zephyrians sent diplomatic messages asking the humans to show mercy. The Nereids offered to mediate between humans and Devourers. Even the warrior Vraktor suggested that the human response might be too extreme. Admiral Torres responded to all the diplomatic messages with the same answer: "They took our children. Nothing else matters." The humans rejected every attempt at negotiation. They ignored calls for mercy. They turned away offers of mediation. The galaxy had watched the children be taken and done nothing. Now, the galaxy could watch the Devourers be destroyed. Dr. Park made a breakthrough in her research that changed everything. By studying captured Devourer technology, she discovered how their biomechanical systems worked. More importantly, she found their weakness. "They're all connected," she explained to Admiral Torres over the communication system. "Every Devourer is linked to a central consciousness. If we can disrupt that connection, their entire civilization will collapse." "How do we do that?" Ryan asked. "We need to find their home system," Lisa replied. "The central consciousness is located there, along with the children. If we can attack the source, we can save our kids and destroy the Devourers at the same time." The hunt for the Devourer home system became the focus of the entire human war effort. Scout ships spread out across the galaxy, following every clue and tracking every signal. The Enhanced Marines raided smaller bases, looking for navigation data and computer files. Jake Morrison led one of these raids on a Devourer research station. His team moved through the alien corridors like deadly shadows, their enhanced abilities making them unstoppable. They found computers filled with information about Devourer operations. In one file, Jake discovered something that made him stop breathing. A video message from his daughter Emma. She was older now, her face changed by alien technology. Metal implants showed through her skin. Her eyes glowed with an unnatural light. "Daddy," she said in a voice that was still recognizably hers, "I know you're looking for me. I can feel you getting closer. The Devourers are scared now. They know they made a mistake. Please hurry. I don't know how much longer I can stay me." Jake watched the message 3 times before his enhanced emotional controls kicked in and shut down his tears. His daughter was still alive, still fighting to remain human despite what was being done to her. The knowledge filled him with a fury that made his enhanced muscles tremble. The breakthrough came 6 months later when a human scout ship detected massive energy signatures in an unexplored star system. The readings matched Devourer technology but were thousands of times stronger than anything they had encountered before. "That's it," Dr. Park said when she saw the data. "That's their home system. The central consciousness is there." Admiral Torres assembled the entire human fleet for the final assault. 5,000 ships prepared for the largest battle in galactic history. The enhanced Marines checked their weapons one last time. The scientists loaded their most devastating bombs. Every human in the fleet knew this was their last chance to save the children. "Remember why we're here," Admiral Torres announced to the fleet. "They took our children thinking we were weak. They're about to learn what human strength really looks like." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading for the Devourer home system. Behind them, they left a trail of destroyed bases and dead enemies. Ahead of them lay the final confrontation that would determine the fate of 2 million human children. The galaxy held its breath as the human war machine moved toward its ultimate target. The peaceful species that had once sought harmony was about to deliver a lesson in the terrible power of a parent's love and fury. The Devourers were about to discover that some enemies should never be made. The Devourer home system was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. 7 planets orbited a dying red star, each one covered in massive biomechanical structures that pulsed with alien life. The planets themselves had been transformed into living machines, their surfaces crawling with technology that mixed flesh and metal in horrifying ways. Admiral Ryan Torres stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching his fleet emerge from hyperspace. 5,000 human warships appeared in perfect formation around the system's edge. The sight would have been beautiful if not for the terrible purpose that brought them here. Sensors are detecting massive energy readings from the central planet, his tactical officer reported. "That's where the children are being held," Ryan nodded grimly. After 2 years of hunting, they had finally found their target. Somewhere on that twisted world, 2 million human children were fighting to stay. Human, while alien technology slowly consumed their minds, the Devourers responded to the human arrival with typical arrogance. Their communication came through on old frequencies, the same cold mechanical voice that had announced the original attack. "Humans," the voice said, "you have come far from your peaceful worlds, but you are too late. Your young ones are no longer yours. They are part of us now. We offer you one chance. Withdraw and we will return some of them to you. Stay and watch them all die." Admiral Torres activated the fleet communication system. His response was broadcast not only to the Devourers but to every species in the galaxy that was listening. "You took our children," he said, his voice carrying the fury of an entire species. "You thought this would break us. Instead, you awakened something that should have stayed sleeping. We reject your offer. We will take back every single child. And we will make sure you never threaten anyone again." The battle began immediately. The Devourer defense fleet rose from the planets like a swarm of insects. Their biomechanical ships moved in ways that defied normal physics, twisting through space like living creatures. But the humans were ready for them. Dr. Lisa Park watched from the UES Discovery as her weapons were put to the test. The dissolution bombs struck the Devourer ships and began eating through their biomechanical armor. The creatures inside screamed as their own technology turned against them. "The weapons are working perfectly," she reported to Admiral Torres. "Their biomechanical integration is their weakness. Our weapons are designed specifically to exploit it." The space battle raged for hours. Devourer ships fell by the hundreds, as human weapons proved superior in every way. The aliens had relied on their advanced technology for so long that they had forgotten how to adapt. The humans, driven by fury and desperation, had built weapons specifically to counter everything the Devourers could do. Jake Morrison and his enhanced Marines prepared for the assault on the central planet. Their transport ships cut through the orbital defenses like knives through paper. The enhanced soldiers were no longer quite human, but they remembered what they were fighting for. "Remember," Jake told his squad as they prepared to land, "the children are somewhere in the central complex. Dr. Park's scanners show massive biomechanical activity there. That's where we'll find them." The transport ships landed on the planet's surface, which writhed and pulsed like living skin. The enhanced Marines moved quickly across the alien landscape, their modified bodies allowing them to survive in the toxic atmosphere. Nothing would stop them from reaching the children. The Devourer ground forces tried to stop the human advance, but they were no match for the enhanced Marines. Jake's squad cut through the alien defenders like they were made of paper. The humans fought with a fury that made the biomechanical creatures retreat in terror. "They're afraid?" one of Jake's Marines observed as they pushed deeper into the complex. "They finally understand what they've done." The central processing facility was a nightmare of twisted metal and living tissue. Cables that looked like veins connected massive computers that pulsed with organic life. And in the center of it all, suspended in transparent tubes, were the children. Jake Morrison found his daughter Emma in the third row of tubes. She was older now, her body changed by alien technology. Metal implants covered parts of her skin, and her eyes glowed with an unnatural light. But when she saw him, she smiled. "Daddy," she whispered through the tube's communication system. "I knew you would come." Dr. Park arrived with her rescue team, carrying equipment designed to separate the children from the alien technology. The process was dangerous and complicated. They had to disconnect the biomechanical connections without killing the children in the process. "We need to work fast," Lisa said as she began the separation process. "The central consciousness is trying to kill them rather than let them go." The Devourer central consciousness was a massive biomechanical brain that filled an entire cavern beneath the facility. It had controlled their entire species for thousands of years, making them into perfect tools for conquest. But now it was dying as human weapons destroyed its connections to the rest of their civilization. "Your children will die with us," the consciousness spoke through speakers throughout the facility. "If we cannot have them, no one can." But the humans had planned for this. Dr. Park's equipment worked faster than the consciousness could react. One by one, the children were freed from their alien prisons. They were changed by their experience, but they were still human, still alive. Still worth saving. Jake held Emma in his arms as the rescue team worked to save the other children. She was different now, with metal implants that could never be removed and memories of 2 years in alien captivity. But she was his daughter, and she was alive. "I'm sorry I took so long," he whispered to her. "It's okay, Daddy," Emma replied. "I knew you were coming. I could feel your anger across the stars. It kept me strong." The human fleet completed its work with methodical efficiency. Every Devourer ship was destroyed. Every biomechanical facility was reduced to rubble. The alien species that had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years was completely eliminated in a single day. Admiral Torres received the final reports as the last Devourer stronghold fell. Over 1.2 million children had been rescued alive. The others had been too deeply integrated into alien technology to save, but they were avenged. The Devourers were extinct. The news spread across the galaxy within hours. The species that had once dismissed humans as weak and peaceful now watched in silent terror. Humanity had demonstrated what happened when someone threatened their families. The lesson would not be forgotten. Chancellor Karen Walsh addressed the galaxy from the ruins of the Devourer homeworld. Behind her, human ships were already working to destroy every trace of alien technology. "Let this be remembered," she said. "Humanity seeks peace with all species. We believe in cooperation and mutual understanding. But harm our children, and we will show you why our ancestors conquered their own world through determination and ruthless efficiency. Some lines should never be crossed." Jake Morrison carried his daughter back to the transport ship that would take them home. Emma was quiet, processing everything she had experienced. The other rescued children were equally silent, all of them changed by their ordeal. "What happens now, Daddy?" Emma asked as they left the dead world behind them. Jake looked out at the stars where the human fleet was already beginning its journey home. The war was over, but the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had revealed its true nature when pushed too far. "Now we go home," he told his daughter, "and we make sure this never happens again." The human ships disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind only empty space where the Devourer civilization had once existed. The galaxy was quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet than before. It was the silence of species that had learned to fear the peaceful humans and their terrible capacity for total war. In the years that followed, no alien species ever again made the mistake of targeting human children. The tragedy that had unleashed humanity's fury became a cautionary tale told across the stars. Some enemies, the story warned, should never be made. The children of humanity played safely under alien suns, protected by the knowledge that their parents would move heaven and earth to keep them safe. And in the darkness between stars, nothing stirred that might threaten them again.